Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force!
We're reclaiming the rainbow!
Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force, the upper middle class superhero team that protects your innocence any way they can. They are Tallulah, Sebastian Caden, Zoe, Quota, and Dirk.
We don't tolerate different.
We're heterosexual overdance!
Yeah! Fighting evil in multicolored skin, tight cut off suspended.
Pow!
I'm happy to wait.
I don't even need to masturbate!
I dare off on the face of justice!
Sex is bad.
And violence is good!
Gonna save the neighborhood from sex.
Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force!
May I have your attention, please, for a very important public service announcement. We are taking over the internet, and the United States champion of word wrestling entertainment has returned for another edition of the Pocket Locker podcast. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, I am in airplane mode. Gang, you already know what time it is. It is time to grab something to drink. It is time to grab something to smoke and link up with the gang. Greet your neighbor and catch a vibe as we jump into the musical portion of the program. Please raise your glasses and hold on to your asses. Through him, with him, in the unity of the flying man. All glory and honor is yours who flied for our sins forever and ever. You may drink. Crystal was first. Captain Jazz was second. Actually, I fucked up. I think Randy was second. It's all good. And Carrie Ann Chrysler was third. I forgot the real name. I gotta get the alert set up. Actually, I have an idea. I could get that started. new computer fucks up my audio setup. Doesn't have as many outputs as the other one. But I think I'll just fire it up to get the extra interfaces. Not that YouTube punk cares. YouTube punk got money to burn. Yep, see, that's what happens. Everybody be trying that YouTube punk strategy. You gotta have a magic touch. Look at that. What the fuck? Doesn't even make sense. I don't even know how that works. But mad. Crazy. Awesome. All right, gang, we got one more for you. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm still getting used to the new setup. Oh, okay, let's go. Which one is this? This one? There we go. Nice. I'm gonna be done by the end of the Friday night, am I out of line? Am I working head down? Trying to move on ya, not try to smooth. Let me rise, get the crazy eyes as I try to read the signs. Trying to move on ya, not try to smooth. You apologize, but you realize when it all comes out, it's only one thing on my mind. I could wanna live, this and everything, but you know my cards and nothing there for me to do. I just want you. Fuck you. I like dynamite. Let's go. You feel so right, you make me feel so right. Fuck you. I like dynamite. Let's go. You make me feel so right, Fuck you. Stick sweet, think you got the beat as I let you take the lead. I'm a fool for you, I'll lose my cool for you. Elevator, kitchen, lottery, anywhere we find for me. Fool for you, I'll lose my cool for you. You apologize, but you realize it all comes down to something one thing on my mind. I could wanna live, this and everything, but you know my cards and never things I do. Just want you. Fuck you. Crazy. That wall of ants is insane too. It's so cool. That's a kick-ass little place they're playing in. All right. Gang, let's go ahead and take off on this shit. This is about to be probably the most random episode we have ever done. We are just it's just fucking Friday. We just about to be all over the place. Shit is there's not going to be a unifying theme or overarching story that ties the segments together other than fuck-facedness, you know. It's going to be a lot of fuck-facedness. Fuck-faced Freaky Friday fuck-facedness. That's the fucking theme. That's the motherfucking story. Don't ask me why I put this assortment of material together for the program. Every now once in a while, you know, we're sitting around in the fucking production meeting and we're like, what y'all been wanting to get into? It doesn't have to have it. It don't really have to be. What are we gonna title today's show? Gang, that's how it went down today. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So first up on the list is this freaky police officer. But he got caught. Boom.
We're just trying to have a good time, go to play soccer.
Nelson Ochoa says he was in South Lawn Park in Oxon Hill on Labor Day enjoying a game of soccer with other families when a Prince George's County police cruiser pulled up and parked. He doesn't know what made him start to record, but he did.
As soon as I started recording, a car pulled.
You started recording because you know what it's like out here. You know how Popo be. It's crazy that that's the new norm. Is rather than you calling the police because you're suspicious of someone and then like monitoring what they do for like some fucked up shit you might have to report or have evidence of the police. Literally now when the police roll up, your ass gets suspicious. You're like, oh, the fucking cops are here. Get ready. Grab your camera. There's some shit's about to go down.
And then a young lady came out.
He recorded the two appearing to embrace and kiss and then get into the back of the officer's car.
We couldn't believe what we were seeing. And then what really made us go like, wow, like this is crazy is when, like I said, when the car started rocking a little bit to the left and right, that's when.
Oh, my man said that. He said that car started rocking from the left to the right. That's when they knew what time it was. Oh my goodness. And they just in the fucking park, y'all. Could you imagine like some goddamn teenagers?
Like, wow, this is crazy. And broad daylight with kids around.
Broad daylight.
35 to 40 minutes.
Afterward, he says both quickly drove away in separate directions.
But hey, We can't say my man is a 2-pump chump. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it real. Let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? They had themselves a good time. Like, that's a good scene right there. You know what I'm saying? In the adult film world, that's a healthy scene right there. You know, she got her timing. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Prince George's County Police released a statement on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying they were aware of the video and are investigating to determine the circumstances. They tell the I-Team they have identified the officer, though they have not released his name. Multiple police sources tell me it's Francesco Marlette, seen here in this picture. We reported on him back in 2016 when he was accused of beating his then-girlfriend's 3-year-old son.
Now you know he gotta have a
the father
fucked
of
up
that
ass
child
history.
told me in an exclusive interview that he was trying to keep Marlette away from his son.
He would say,
again, bro, it's like your ex starts dating a cop, and it's like the worst shit ever. And again, all types of criminal, fucked up ass shit is happening to your kid because you got motherfucking Popo in your life now. This shit is wild.
Daddy Francesco, which is his mom's boyfriend, hits me in my face and hits me in my stomach, and he's really mean.
According to the boy's medical records, the 3-year-old was spanked, resulting in a head injury. The Prince George's officers who responded that day ruled it an accident. A grand jury disagreed and charged Marlette. But after agreeing to anger management, Marlette never stood trial. The charges were dropped, his record expunged, and he was back on the force.
Boom.
His attorney
That's
declined to
the problem.
comment on the case at the time. A few years later, Marlette is making
And the
news.
crazy thing is that don't happen for regular people. Like, so few of us, you know, have a chance to have your record expunged or get a second chance like that. And it's crazy that literally we allow law enforcement officers to get away with this shit. The other fucked up shit is apparently, and this shows you the nature of PR and shit. It's like he'll get in more trouble over this incident, which is kind of just embarrassing when you think about it. Like, it's just very unprofessional, just like very, you know, it's almost comical, right? Whereas his other stuff was a little bit more serious, so that's a bit weird.
Again, now, in this viral video.
I
Shows
woke
you
up this morning and it
the
had 2 million views already.
Ochoa says
power
he
of
hopes
publicity.
police will take a close look at what's going on in this video.
Yeah, I'm glad I caught all of that on camera so Prince George can see the type of officers they have in office, you know, working for them, supposedly protecting the community.
He put my man's business way out there on Front Street. And it's crazy. Like, the times we live in, you gotta always assume, you know, somebody's watching or something. Like, it's kind of intense. So craziness. All right, let me go ahead and get us into the next piece. All right. All right, here we go. I got like I told y'all, it's random and there's no connection. There's just no, like, how do I even segue this next piece? First off, before we do that, let's just reflect on this moment. Can y'all imagine? Can you fucking imagine you just sitting there at the park in the middle of the day playing with some kids? Popo roll up, so you know a black man about to get killed. So you get your phone out, you know what I'm saying, in case a murder goes down or some wild and ass out shit. You don't know what the fuck is going down when the police show up. They might be about to deal drugs themselves or some crazy shit. You don't know what's going on. And literally, like my man said, then you see him roll up with a female. They start making out, hop in the back of the police vehicle, and you like, he not finna about to do this. They not really about to get it on right now in the middle of this park in broad daylight. That's not really gonna happen. Every man said it started rocking from the left to the right. Oh, that's the best line of the whole clip. Oh, that shit had me rolling. Y'all, I would have been losing my shit. Literally. And honestly, I feel like I'd have been mad. Like I was just like, fuck my life. Like why why is this happening? Why am I here? I don't know why. Just the mood I'm in lately. I just would have been like, fuck this. This is fucking ridiculous. Oh man. So, the other thing is I have so many questions like, why do they rendezvous like this? It feels like there's more to the story. Like at least one of them, if not both of them, is in a serious relationship. I wouldn't have been surprised to hear they're both, in full. Like, yeah, because it's a little bit like there's easier ways to do this, more less conspicuous places and all of that. There's definitely a lot more to that story that unfortunately we'll probably never find out. All right. Well, look, here's a segue. Speaking of crazy motherfuckers, here's Judge Janine Pirro from Foxland.
I am so livid right now. I am furious. I have spent over 3 decades in a system that I believe in. I'm a believer. But today, I am no longer a believer. What you've got is a weaponized Department of Justice, Department of FBI, and CIA. We cannot have a country led by a president subject to ongoing criminal investigations, potential indictments, and never-ending hearings. Now, in any other business, when the head of a corporation is plagued by scandal, that person steps down and is replaced because the board knows a business cannot succeed without respect and authority.
Oh, my man. Go ahead, man. Let's get it.
We fucking got him.
One of those things you get at CVS that are the length of a football field and complete overkill. Oh, that's right, receipts. Well, get ready for a bunch of them, courtesy of MSNBC host
man. Yo, it's just so funny because when they assume crime is about people they don't like and motherfuckers they hate, they are on top of it. Justice cannot be swift enough, strict enough. They throw the book at these motherfuckers, pick the book up off the floor, go sit your ass back on the bench, and then throw the book at them motherfuckers harder, like you motherfucking mean it. Okay? But how sweet it is to be loved by you. When them words come back around, when that motherfucking wagon gets circled and it's their time to be in the hot seat and you could just play they shit back to them, oh, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. It's just the straight saltiness. I just don't like these people, and I'm here to see their downfall. That's what it is. Schadenfreude, whatever you call it. I'll go ahead and tell you. I just say I'm a trash human being. I'm one of them fucked up ass people who's an atheist. I don't even think God exists, and I still be praying for the downfall of my enemies.
When you have a constant media diet of lies and propaganda, which these people are kind of injecting into their veins every night, and we now know that the hosts, well, we already knew, but now we can prove that the hosts don't even believe the nonsense they're saying to their viewers. By the way, Joy, you and I are often accused of having contempt or disrespect for the conservative voters. No one has more contempt or disrespect for conservative voters than conservative media personalities.
I let it slip on
but look, how do you stop that when you have non-stop lies? I don't have the silver bullet. It's very hard when 20 to 30% of the American public has been cocooned off in a bubble where they are fed misinformation, disinformation by the likes of Ingram and Hannity and Rupert Murdoch, who goes under oath in a deposition and says, my host endorsed the big lie. Yeah, I don't believe in it.
Over the holiday weekend, the usually on-point host opted to consolidate some Fox News clips in the name of hypocrisy. In the segment, the same Fox News hosts and commentators who have bent over backwards defending Donald Trump in the wake of his combined 91 felony indictments.
Whatever you think of the photo, this is not something to take lightly. Our constitutional republic depends on the very basic concept of rule by law, not rule by man. A constitutional standard under which a president is still just a citizen and all citizens have equal standing before one system of law which applies equally to everyone.
This is overkill. This is
all that was real nice. But gang, all I gotta say is Fuck all that civics, all that politeness, all that innocent till proven guilty. Fuck it. We finally got a fucking Trump mugshot, and it is fucking epic. And his monkey ass actually got dressed up. He got dressed up to take his mugshot. No, Trump, it's not how you do this, bro. It's not how you do this. And then he's got this fake ass defiant look, the full orange fucking hue with the fucking mop, fucking swift, the golden glow. I don't know what he calls that thing with his hair. It's like the wifty. It kind of looks like a rat's nest or like some steel wool that's been dyed like the cringy shade of yellow. It's just full. It's the full Trump effect, y'all. But it's a fucking mugshot with the fucking badge and the fucking Fulton County fucking watermark, and it's all fucking low res, and he's got to slightly look up because it's that fucked up jail camera. Y'all know about the fucked up jail camera. Come on, gang, y'all gotta live a little bit, man. Some of y'all been living too square. You ain't never been arrested. You ain't never had your mugshot taken. Come on. Come on, what are you doing? You're not even trying out here. But now Trump can finally join the club. It's just, I gotta say, as far as a Trump mugshot goes, this is as good as it was gonna get. Like, this mugshot truly delivers. There's only two ways this could have gone down. The full Trump effect, which is what we got. We got the full, like, he looks like just like he does, like when he's like, if he's about to deliver an important speech or go on Fox News or some shit like that. Like, it's the full Trump effect. Either that or like a jumpsuit. Let's be clear. The real fantasy, like super fantasy, like, oh, I'm gonna jerk off to this, like we're way out in porno fantasy land, would have been Trump in a jumpsuit. But we know we wasn't gonna get Trump in a jumpsuit. So if we gotta take the jumpsuit off the table, this mugshot was fucking Christmas early. I don't give a no. We know this motherfucker did it. It is time he gets brought to justice. And yeah, you know what? This is a very profitable mugshot because he's fundraising off of it, and we fundraising off of it too. Everybody wants this mugshot.
Or one system of law which applies equally to everyone.
This is overkill. This is political germ warfare.
Trump said nothing and did nothing to trigger any criminal charge on January 6th. Any.
Sean, this indictment is the legal equivalent of the French guillotine, the reign of terror. This is a mob mentality to take out Donald Trump.
I remembered singing a very different tune in 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running against Trump.
She cannot take the Oval Office.
Now, as you may recall, countless talking heads on the right-wing network cried out that nation couldn't handle a president under investigation. Or as boxed wine influencer Judge Janine proudly touted, quote,
boxed wine influencer. Oh man. Oh man, that's so good. That's like Karen times 5. Boxed wine influencer. Come on now, y'all. Come on, y'all got a lot of basic bitches in your life that perfectly fit the description. Y'all already know who we talk about, that box wine crowd. And don't get me wrong, most of them, that's my girls. I ain't gonna fuck with you. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Because that's the crowd that knows how to have a good time without spending good money. You understand what I'm saying? They know how. Look, everybody pitching a few bucks, and we are gonna blow the fuck out of this weekend. What? You don't even have no plans. Y'all just get together. What we gonna do? Oh, we gonna get a box of wine. That's it. That's the whole fucking plan. Nobody's figured out what the entertainment gonna be, what the activities are, what the fucking schedule is. None of that shit. We gonna go get us a box of wine and figure it out from there after we get drunk. And now, they shouldn't be running the legal system or on TV or providing no analysis or, having no influence in the political sphere. But that box wine crowd knows how to have a good time. I ain't even going to.
We cannot have a country led by a president subject to ongoing criminal investigations. Oh, really, Janine? Is that right? Well, Let's roll the tape.
I want you to hear my opening statement. This is the most important election of your lifetime. And whether you like Hillary Rodham Clinton or Donald J. Trump doesn't matter. There is only one person you can vote for. We cannot have a country led by a president subject to ongoing criminal investigations, potential indictment, and never-ending hearings. And irrespective of what happens to her, whether she's indicted or even guilty, it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Her guilt is a moot point. She cannot take the Oval Office.
The RICO statute, that's just theater. That's just a bunch of theater in the midst of politics and a legal thing.
Hillary Clinton could be sworn into office while still being under investigation from the FBI, which would then put this country into a major constitutional crisis.
This will be nothing other than a show indictment to cover their overtly political, never-ending persecution of any and all things Donald J. Trump.
She's under FBI investigation less than 2 weeks before the presidential election.
These people are just so hypocritical.
Holy smokes.
Yes, Donald Trump is a flawed man, but his sins are minor compared to those of his persecutors.
The American people are about to have a candidate who is clearly going to be under criminal investigation for the entire first and second year of her presidency.
All these indictments are about politics. Not a single one of them is about the law.
Hassan's team perfectly put together the montage where the usual ballads were sung. Everything from this is nothing other than a show indictment to a witch hunt.
I know this doesn't count in a court of law, but do you think Trump had any idea that he was breaking the law when he was asking Mike Pence not to certify?
To a deflection from Hunter's laptop.
You can expect that there's going to be Russian disinformation in the form of a Hunter Biden laptop. And that's when they interfered with the presidential election for the second time. And 51 CIA intelligence agents. So we've got the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA say, oh, this is Russian disinformation, when we know damn well it wasn't Russian disinformation.
And in the end, you come to the conclusion that it's interesting how one walks when the shoe is on the other wildly dysfunctional foot.
But what they do is they put out this narrative indictment. Oh, this is a story of wrongdoing, national defense. And let's put in espionage. We can kind of tie it into the Russian collusion. So people will say, oh, it could have been the Russians. This is nonsense. When a woman...
Gang, I got to tell you straight up. This is why Christianity scares me. These are the people showing you that reality just doesn't matter. Reality just doesn't matter. This is all fine and well and good when, you know, in the before times you be talking about high level crazy shit that nobody sees, nobody has access to. It's just some rumors. We are talking about an insurrection that happened on national television and was broadcast to social media live in real time by the insurrectionists. We are talking about Trump's plan to interfere with this election, call it stolen, when before the election even happened, he was saying they can only win it if they steal it. Please go fuck yourself. Gang, we are actually talking about shit the whole world has already seen. We were all there. We all watched that shit in real time. It was worse than being there somehow. It was because you were there, but you couldn't change the course or none of it. You just was stuck at home with a front row seat to the death of democracy. It was fucking terrifying. These motherfuckers actually shit on the fucking historic fucking paintings of America and shit. They actually put poop on them elected a gallows for the. We all know what happened. We've already had a full-blown commission that has already been through all the nooks and crannies of this shit. It is crazy. Literally, the estimate of the amount of footage that they have to comb through for all of these cases, y'all. Whew. And it does not matter to these people. It does not matter what the whole world has seen. They're just gonna fucking fake it anyway.
Under federal criminal investigation, who's lied repeatedly to the American people, is elected. Do you think they'll take her at her word?
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for?
Oh yeah,
Follow
I've been hearing about that Project 2025. Actually, they're trying to make Trump a dictator up in this bitch. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. But yeah, we maybe we should delve into that a little bit deeper at some point. But yeah, I just been hearing some shit about that. Also, yeah, join the Discord if y'all not in the Discord. Believe it or not, there's a Discord channel. There's a channel in our Discord for stream notifications, and it is the most reliable thing ever because it's YouTube. You know, it's like who you're subscribed to and you got your notifications, and then YouTube does whatever YouTube does with the algorithm. This is like a bot that Restream has directly plugged in the Discord, and every time I go live, I don't even have to think about it. It just automatically, boom, right away sends a message to the Discord. Plus, you'll be in a Discord, and you could hang and chat with us when we're not live. The Discord, I love our Discord, man. Our Discord's grown so much, and it's fucking legit. I'm so excited about it. All right, let's go ahead. Because, yeah, I was a streamer for a long time, right? I was on Twitch for a really long time, and my community was super small. And we had a Discord for the longest time. And it was cool because, you know, a few of us were in there, but it just wasn't, you know, it gets fun the bigger it gets and the more stuff people have going on there. And then eventually our Discord got hacked. I don't know if y'all remember that, but it was in the middle of when we were getting penis bombed, and the gang, there was so much trauma. I had so many traumatic experiences. That's why Myron Bot is so strict, y'all. Y'all don't know. There was a time, it was like all the time we was going live, somebody was either going to be saying nigger to me a bunch of times, or somebody was going to try to call into the show and then jerk off. And then I'm not even exaggerating. I literally mean people would like call in the show and try to jerk off on stream. And then they would go in our Discord and try to jerk off on the Discord or put penis. It was just the penis bombing. Oh God. Oh God. There was so it literally got to a point where like that was how we knew how successful the show was. Like, could we really get through, say, 90 minutes of broadcasting without anybody trying to show me their dick? That and call me a nigger. That would be, oh, that was a good day. So things have actually improved. I gotta say, the quality of engagement in the community has really improved since then. But yeah, we had to make a whole new Discord. Our Discord survived, and now it's trying. We probably need to cut it down a little bit. It's got a lot of channels in it, but it is dope. Please join. There's a link in the description. All right, gang, like I told y'all, this is going to be the most random show we've ever done because we just jumping all over the place. So yeah, we're just gonna, oops, yeah, speaking of jump all over the place, we're gonna have to switch up there, go to this next thing. So literally, we're just gonna watch this video that I wanted to watch today about 5 wrestlers The Undertaker hates. What? Yeah, I know. You didn't see it coming. There's no segue. Like I said, there's no thematic tie through of today's show. It's just a bunch of shit I want to watch with y'all. All right, here we go. Oh man.
First Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels. I lost the match, but the beating that I give him was off the chart. Chokeslammed him through.
Although the renowned Undertaker doesn't appear to have any emotions, he has strong feelings for both friends and foes in the WWE, which has been witnessed clear as day through the many sweaty, sporty shindigs. With him in the corner, in his towering figure and intimidating body features, you can feel the tensions rising and even conflict with his fellow counterparts. Today, we will look into 5 wrestlers that Undertaker hates. Number 5, Shawn Michaels. At the Bad Blood PBV in 1997, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels fought in the first ever Hell in a Cell match.
You know what, as far as a performer, Shawn Michaels was off the chart. Oh, he could real pain in the ass. And if that was going to be the case, then I was gonna do what I thought.
All right, but in all fairness to HBK, fucking everybody hated him. Like, to me, and all right, there's some fucked up shit here. So to me, he was like literally obviously one of the best wrestlers in history of pro wrestling, and clearly one of the like defined the 90s, and he's my favorite wrestler of all time. But he was by all admissions, even his own admissions, a pretty shitty human being. Now, y'all want to hear the real fucked up part? Here's the real fucked up part. I'm a bigger fan of Shawn Michaels when he was a terrible human being. I know nobody says it. We're all like, Shawn Michaels is one of the greatest performers ever, and he used to be an asshole, but then he found Jesus, and now we get along, and I think he's great, and I call him up, and he's my buddy, and I think he's wonderful. But let's say what really needs to be said. He was way cooler. His work was way better. Yo, old school asshole Shawn, who was apparently fucking everybody over, doing way too many drugs, and starting shit with everybody. That was the man that was putting in that work. Then he found Jesus, became a good guy, became all friendly. Now everybody loves him. I don't like it. I never liked Friendly Shawn. I'm not a fan of Friendly Shawn. Say what you want to say. I'm with old Shawn. I don't know what you got to do. Make him do some drugs again. Have him go through some personal trauma. I don't know, but I'm not a fan of Friendly Shawn. I'm just gonna put it out there like
when
that.
Undertaker's brother Kane first appeared? Yeah, and get this. As for Shawn Michaels, Undertaker probably wouldn't rescue him if he was on fire due to their mutual hatred. Some time ago, it was clear that the dead man absolutely detested Shawn Michaels to the point where he would become enraged at the mere sight of him.
So he did. He threatened, and he let everyone know that if it didn't happen, he was going to rough me up. But he just never said anything to me.
All right, so yeah, this story is basically back in the day. I guess this was when Shawn was supposed to drop the WWE title to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Shawn had a way of, let's just say, not being available when it came time for titles to change hands. And so, you know, this sort of legendary story is that the Undertaker, who was the sort of locker room leader, the enforcer of wrestlers court, that he sort of sat right behind the entrance during this match with his fist taped or whatever, you know, making sure Shawn understood that if he didn't do what he was supposed to do, there would be consequences. Now, if all of this sounds incredibly unprofessional to you, and like somehow management should be able to keep wrestlers in line without a wrestler's court and threats of physical violence to ensure that people did what they were being paid fucking almost $1 million a year or whatever to fucking do at the time. Yeah, you got a pretty good point. That's exactly what the fuck is going on. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
That's because being in HBK's company made him grumpy. In 1997, at WrestleMania 25, the two had what is widely considered to be the greatest match in wrestling history, and was undoubtedly the greatest in WrestleMania history. The mutual regard between them is priceless, but it wasn't always that. Where Shawn Michaels and I are today and where we were at back then on a personal level, it's taken a complete 360,
Yeah,
Undertaker said.
they're all good now.
Michaels offered his own explanation for their divergent opinions. It's not like there was a bunch of animosity. We were just two very different personalities. They made an indelible impact on the company and have become close friends in the process. In contrast, in 1997, Undertaker was not in the mood to put up with Michaels' many flaws, including the fact that he was a drug addict.
I'll just put it this way, if it hadn't have been done the way it was done, probably been a very long night for Shawn Michaels.
Number 4, Big Show. It appears that Undertaker and Big Show now have a mutual regard for one another. The Big Show in particular has said that the dead man has been an important mentor to him in terms of business and WWE strategy. However, in the past, they'd encountered a number of different...
Also, before we move on from Sean, I'm gonna just say and I think this is gonna be a theme where these guys get older, they settle down, their personalities change, and then they also try to get that Legends money together. So they also got back together for that Saudi Arabia deal. That was fucking terrible. That match alone, the tag match with Undertaker and Kane versus Shawn and Triple H, that shit right there makes me wish they never became friends.
Difficulties. The Undertaker reportedly had issues with Big Show's training habits and wrestling basics since Paul White did not put in the necessary effort during his early days in the WWE. It was a mistake for him to rely solely on his current state of health. However, Show claims that the dead man's teachings are mostly responsible for his professional success. In his quote, you can hear a lot of hatred in the tone.
He had that one long crooked finger and he would do this, trying to avoid Taker, so I would go to the right instead of going up the ramp.
I used to come through the gorilla position after a match against Undertaker on our live tours, and Undertaker would be there waiting for me. He'd wave me over with a crooked finger.
That's awesome.
Chew out my ass for the next 15 minutes. This happened night after night. It seemed like I couldn't do anything right, no matter what I tried, and I'm a little more hard-headed than most. So it took me a while, but a lot of the lessons I learned from Undertaker put me in a position now where I can help a lot of people not make the same mistakes I made.
There's the guy that cussed me out every time I did something wrong. Nobody knows who the Big Show is, and he was one of the guys that was chewing my ass out about it.
Number 3, Vince Russo. Vince Russo claimed in an interview
with Vince fucking Russo. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Gang, if you want to become a millionaire, I can give you a foolproof, guaranteed way to become a millionaire. You start with $1 billion. You buy a wrestling company. And then you make Vince fucking Russo the booker. It guarantee you'll be a millionaire overnight. Millionaire overnight. Because this man knows how to lose money like no other. This man made gang. I'm gonna tell you how much we already hate Vince Russo. Do you remember how when you were growing up, you kind of you hate to admit it, but there was kind of a time that you kind of liked wrestling. You were real excited about it. It was real great. You were into The Rock and you were into the fucking Stone Cold, and you were kind of feeling that attitude shit. And then it just got weird and creepy and gross and downhill, and it probably became unbearable to watch. That's Vince Russo.
WrestleZone that The Undertaker was, and possibly still is, hot for him during their time working together during the Attitude Era.
Everybody hates Vince Russo.
Terry Taylor came up to him and told him that The Undertaker was furious with him for forcing him to work while hurt.
I hate Vince Russo so much that he deserves the Nazi treatment. Like when you see Vince Russo, you can just punch him in the face. All wrestling fans, wrestlers, wrestling promoters, everybody knows there's a permanent green light for everybody. You see Vince Russo, you just punch him in the face. You don't have to explain shit. You don't get arrested. There's no assault charges, none of that shit. Everybody has what's called wrestling diplomatic immunity that allows you to punch Vince Russo in the face. And I don't even think the man is a Nazi. I don't even know if he's a bad human being. That is how much he has traumatized. The wrestling business is so glad and so lucky that it survived Vince Russo. But God damn it, it only barely survived Vince Russo.
Take a walk through, like, bro, he like just double.
Well, I'm trying to get that microphone.
This is probably true due to the fact that every week on every WWE program, Russo put Taker in a physically taxing match or segment. But Vince Russo says he has no idea what ails Taker. Former WWE manager Jim Cornette challenged former WWE writer Vince Russo to a fistfight for $5,000. Russo had helped the professional wrestling powerhouse during the Monday Night Wars. The conflict began when Cornette stated that Russo had been begging for a job by emailing Vince McMahon every week.
Yeah, so Vince Russo like worked for television and wanted to make wrestling like the fucking Jerry Springer show, and Vince McMahon gave him a fucking job at the fucking WWF magazine, and then he started to bend more of the fucking TV product to sell the fucking magazine, which gave fucking Russo more influence, and then he worked his way into the creative and booking and pissed all over the wrestling business. Yeah, it was terrible.
Very few people as
really
close to Vince as Taker was, but he was like the corporate guy.
A while ago, Michael Hayes joined the conversation, saying that Russo, during The Undertaker's prime 15 years ago, sought to retire him.
Bro, they didn't like the guy. They got their favorites, and then they just don't like.
Number 2, John Laurinaitis. In 2005, The Undertaker wrestled Bob Orton, who was rumored to be suffering from a severe case of hepatitis C at the time of the match. A Hell in the Cell match was scheduled to settle the score. Bob was diagnosed with hepatitis C several weeks before the game, which is a liver disease spread through the blood. He said he tested positive when he was a teenager, but he never experienced any symptoms and eventually forgot about it. After the fight, Undertaker learned of this development.
Wow.
He and the company doctor involved in the case were good friends, so they spoke soon after the match. When the doctor explained what had happened to Taker, he became enraged, and it wasn't directed at Bob Orton. John Laurinaitis, VP of Talent Relations, had earned his ire. I am relieved to report that Taker's hepatitis C test result was negative. Despite Cowboy Bob's dismissal for his reckless decision, Laurinaitis was not disciplined. It is bad enough that even if Laurinaitis was aware of Orton's condition in advance, he still gave him the green light to compete. While Undertaker was already angry about Cowboy's dismissal,
that's awful.
The fact that Laurinaitis was let off without punishment only made matters worse.
Gang, I gotta say, I think Hulk Hogan's at the top of this list. We'll see, but that's my prediction.
At this level, we can conclude that the man is simply a person who loved to bring hatred and strife towards himself. In this instance, I'm sure he had earned Orton's and Undertaker's hatred at the same time. Some can even say he is naturally disagreeable, but we can also give him credit because his persistent attitude led him to a prestigious position at WWE.
Yeah, John Laurinaitis is like, in a way, like he's weirdly like he's weirdly had a great career. I think he's like the perfect definition of an overachiever. So I don't fault him for that, actually. Like he's like I never liked his in-ring work. I wasn't, I was like really young. So it's kind of like stuff I have to look back on and watch. But when I look back at events and he's wrestling, I'm not a big fan of his work. But he ended up in a tag team with Shane Douglas, ended up in a good spot because he had a decent look at the time and made a run of it. Then he had a good career. Then he worked himself into behind the scenes shit. Then he worked himself into an on-screen managerial thing. So he's hung around the business a lot, but like I've just could live without.
The decision to cast John Laurinaitis as a bumbling, unpopular authority figure was deliberate. To begin with, he is the only employee in the company who has the authority to terminate employment. Wrestlers dislike him because of this, despite the fact that it wasn't his call. In his roles as head of talent relations and formerly as a road agent producer in WWE and WCW, he has made quite a number of puzzling moves behind the scenes. Number 1, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker had a classic rivalry throughout their careers.
Terry.
Two unique characters with complementary fighting styles who have been rivals forever. Because Hulk Hogan lied to the board about getting a neck injury from a tombstone piledriver from the Phenom,
Hogan
claims
that I heard him during the pay-per-view.
Everyone involved got suspended from wrestling at the time. Hogan was thus added to The Undertaker's blacklist.
All right, so this is a good story too, because there's a little bit more to it. Like, this was basically when The Undertaker first came to WWF. Obviously, Vince was pushing him to the moon. He got put in this spot literally damn near right away of getting the title and working with Hogan. And basically the suspicions that Hogan really did this to hold back his career, to undermine his confidence, and also, you know, they're very different places, right? Like Undertaker's like just coming in, he's a new guy, he's trying to, you know, secure his spot in his future. Hogan's the top guy, and Hogan accused them of hurting his neck when he tombstoned him onto a chair, I think, in their like first match or whatever. And when you go back and watch the tape, Hogan doesn't even hit this, he never even makes contact because the Undertaker, you know, did the move correctly and safely. And so for years, the Undertaker felt really like guilty and like stressed out about this. And it wasn't until he actually went back and watched the tape and slowed it down that he realized Hulk Hogan was full of shit. And this is just one of many, many stories about Hulk Hogan just absolutely lying about crazy shit. There's you guys should just look up Hulk Hogan's lies. There's just, you'll be amazed about the shit this man has lied about, which is crazy because he's literally the most famous wrestler in the history of the wrestling business. So why he is so insecure and lies about every goddamn thing is kind of perplexing.
Far back as the 1991 Survivor Series.
There it is.
Their paths crossed again in 2002 on Judgment Day, where Undertaker ultimately prevailed over Hogan after an 11-minute match.
So he's telling me, he goes, hey, I got this neck injury. I said, I will protect you, pride myself on not hurting people.
But if you ask me, The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan seem to get along just fine from a professional standpoint. If they happened to be in the same building at the same time, they might say hi and catch up. But again, on a personal level, it's definitely determinable that no, Undertaker does not like Hulk Hogan.
Every point during the day, I'd pass him in the hall or whatnot, you know, I'd get the, you know, like,
yeah, Wayne was here. I don't know. I don't know
Much
where
of
he
it
ran
goes
off
back
to.
to Undertaker's victory over Hogan at the Survivor Series in 1991. These stories have been told countless times, and Undertaker himself admitted as much on a podcast hosted by Peter Rosenberg. In short, I think Hogan, who has a massive ego, isn't interested in doing a job unless he can personally benefit from it, at least in the past. When he learned that The Undertaker would be replacing him as champion, he made a big stink about it.
As a man, I gotta know what the hell, but I also know that it's risking my professional career.
That's all for this video, folks. Catch you on the next one.
All right, that was fun. That was fun. Like I said, y'all, random today. We all over the place. Just trying to have a good time tonight. All right, and now it is time to jump into the main event of the evening. And we got my girl and your girl, Christy Burke, who is always dropping that straight fire. And this is one I've been wanting to get into because it is about taking down probably one of, if not the most popular sermons ever. And that, of course, is the goddamn story of Abraham and Isaac. Gang, let's take off on this shit. You already know I fucking hate this story. Is so crazy. This is the fucking first sermon children fucking lose sleep over when they're growing up, just trying to think about, is my parent gonna sacrifice me to this God character to prove their fucking allegiance to this cult that I'm in? Holy crap. This is the first thing that makes you literally afraid of your own goddamn parents.
Hi, welcome back to my channel where we are unpacking and deconstructing all of the things that we were taught growing up in fundamentalist and conservative Christian churches. My name is Christy, and today we're going to be continuing on in a series that I've been doing.
Bro, which one are you talking about?
Deconstructing Bible stories that we were taught in church, stories that we were taught in Sunday school, and seeing if we can come to a different conclusion than the conclusion that they wanted us to come to. So far, I have not come to any of the same conclusions that we came to when I was in the church. I see things very differently, and you might see things very differently too. But the whole goal here is...
Yeah, see, AR, you were also like that cop making that shit rock back and forth. You know, nowadays, you gonna be on some kids Snapchat fucking doing that. The most inappropriate place I've ever gotten frisky with somebody is a courthouse. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
To really take the things that they taught us to believe were true and the like lessons that they wanted us to get out of these stories, and to figure out for ourselves how we feel about it, what we think, what we believe. Because when you're raised in a Christian church, especially a high control Christian church, you are fed these stories and taught that you're supposed to interpret it a certain way, you're supposed to feel a certain way about it, and that there is one lesson to get out of it, and that's they'll give you the lesson. They'll tell you what to think and believe. But I think they do such a disservice to you when they don't give you the opportunity to figure out how you feel about these stories. They don't give you the space to figure it out for yourself. And so that's what we're here to do. You're going to hear my perspective. You might come up with a different perspective, but what's important is that you're willing to take the time to think about what you believe rather than just clinging to what somebody else has told you. Now, in this video, like all my others, I will be reading the Bible at face value, and I will be doing this through a fundamentalist lens. The goal of my channel is to kind of combat these fundamentalist evangelical ideologies, and within fundamentalism, these stories
I kind of
are
want to
true.
make that in a
The
WWE
Bible is the
game.
inerrant word of God, and it has been provided by God to give us a guide to Him, kind of a map to God and what He wants.
Gang, can we just acknowledge that if Isaac, once Isaac got a little bigger, went through puberty or whatever, got his strength, if he would have just whooped his dad's ass one night in his sleep, that would have been perfectly justified. Can we just, I mean, I don't want to promote patricide or whatever the fuck it's called. Me and my dad get along great, but I think Isaac deserves to maybe just get a couple licks in. I just think if he just, because think about how that must have tortured him his whole life. And then when he got his man strength, and they pop, what are you doing to me? Like, pop. Yeah, I'm gonna look the other way on that. I think that's understandable. It's an understandable amount of rage. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, gang, but I'm saying it's justified. Oh no, what happened to my mouse? Okay, there it goes.
His desires, his plan, his purpose, all of that. If that's the case, then I should be able to pick up a Bible and read it and get whatever is, being said, get whatever God is trying to tell me out of it. If I can't do that, if I need to dig into the historical context, the ancient languages.
Oh yeah, that fighting game with the gods in it. What's it called? I forgot the name of that game.
Read concordances and all of that, then I don't think it's the inspired word of God. And I don't think that it's the path to truth meant for all people, because not all people have access to those things. Not all people have access to the resources and the scholars and all of that to be able to determine what was actually said in this ancient dead language. I'm gonna read this,
and that's such a good point too, because the whole thing of the Bible is that it's written to the people, right? And so when we get all these apologetics about the interpretations, the linguistic origins, the cultural customs of bygone eras, all of that stuff, it's like nope, y'all. This is a book that is literally all about just being picked up and read and used amongst the believers to encourage them in their belief, and so it's even the people who understand the best tell you, like, it has that sort of Mark Twain thing where it's really learned, educated people authoring something for the common folk. So then to suggest that anything beyond a plain reading is what we should be concerned with, I've always found to be a bit dubious of a notion, because it's as though saying that you really have to have the super sophisticated education to read something that is never intended for educated people.
feel about it, and let's see where we land. Today's story is by popular request, Abraham and Isaac. When Abraham is asked to sacrifice his only son to God, and God stops him right before it happens. He spares him, he provides a lamb, and they live happily ever after. And before we get started, I just want to remind you guys that I do have a merch shop at Jezebel.
All right, gang. Now, a lot of you know, well, probably like me, you realize that the religious people in your family are crazy and that there's really no chance of ever deconverting them. Like, they're lost to the cause. They're just gone at this point. But one thing that I will say that sort of, I think, encourages us to risk, you know, having these conversations or maybe at least knocking people's religion down a peg or two. I just want to remind you that likely your parents or your grandparents literally worship the God who fucking has this fucked up ass story of sacrificing your own child. Just remember that. Just remember that your fucking parents thought you needed to learn that shit.
Vibes.com/merch. I'll put the link in the description. That's where I sell t-shirts that kind of reflect our journey, you know, walking away from traditional values. I also take some hate comments and slap them on the shirts just to kind of reclaim them. And I don't know, I think it's a fun thing to do, and I get some funny looks at the grocery store. So if you're interested in getting your own t-shirt and supporting my channel, just go to the link in the description, jezebelvibes.com/shop, and find yourself a shirt. So Let's get into it. Let's get into the sacrifice of Isaac, starting in Genesis 22. This is a pretty short story, so it probably won't take us very long to go through it. However, I do have a lot of thoughts. So here we are, Genesis 22, verse 1. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. An omniscient, omnipotent God is like calling out, Abraham,
where are you?
Where are you? And Abraham's like, hey, God, I'm over here. Like, I just imagine, like, people actually think this really happened. And I just think that's so funny to think about that scenario. Moving on, verse 2. He said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, of which I shall tell you. I ain't going to tell you yet because I haven't thought this through, but I will tell you. Don't worry. So just stopping right there. God has commanded that Abraham takes his son, his only son whom he loves, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him as a burnt offering on the mountain. Now, in church, we know that they tell us, you know, that this story is a story of faith, right? Abraham's faith. He had so much faith in God that he was willing to do whatever God told him.
Yes.
And that, to me, is usually the moral of the story. Have faith. Know that God will provide. Just do whatever God says.
Exactly.
But if God is testing Abraham, and he was testing him on if he was going to do the right and moral, ethical thing, then I would think Abraham's answer would be immediately no. Absolutely not. Like, he would pass the test by saying, no, God, I'm not going to do that. I love
and this is why Christians are fucking nuts, and we can't trust these people, right? Because that's really their morality. Their morality isn't, we know God is good because everything God does happens to also be good. No. What God does is by definition good, therefore you do whatever God commands you to do. And throughout the Bible, there's just so many examples of it. But God, again, I actually think God is fundamentally the most immoral character ever. Like, I think every supervillain that has ever been depicted in writing, in Hollywood, in fiction, right, whatever, doesn't matter, pales in comparison to Yahweh. And the people that follow this, it really, to me, demonstrates that the real test that they're being asked is, will they do whatever they're commanded to do, even when what they're commanded to do is patently immoral on face value? And then this story and the way it is utilized in sermons is to encourage that and to tell you that, yeah, you should actually just do whatever the fuck we say or whatever the fuck we claim is God's will, regardless of how immoral it is in your own thinking. It's wild.
I'm his parent. I would never hurt him. I would never sacrifice my child. I won't do that. It's wrong. And that would be the most moral answer he could give. But it's not a test of morality and ethics. It's a test of faith. And you would think that if God was testing Abraham to do the right thing in God's eyes, then that would be the most moral and ethical thing. But in this scenario, the moral thing and the right thing are not the same thing. And I don't understand that. And in God's world, what's right and what's moral are not synonymous, because the moral thing is to say, no, I'm not going to sacrifice my son. But God doesn't want him to answer that way. God is testing him to see if he's going to have enough faith to do whatever God says, even if it's so awful that, he would ask, to give up his son. Kill your own son. Let's see if he'll do it. So if Abraham is going to pass the test and do what is right, he's going to say no, right? Right? So Abraham rose early, verse 3. Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And then he cut the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you." And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, son." I see what they did there. He said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for a burnt offering?" Abraham said, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." So they went, both of them together. So let's rewind just a little bit and just kind of sit on the fact that there was no back and forth between God and Abraham. Abraham didn't question God. He didn't say, "Why are you asking me to do this? I don't want to do this. I don't want to give up my son." There was no questioning. There was immediately, "Okay, I'm doing this. I'm taking my son. I got my knife. I got my fire. I got everything I need. We're going to go up to the mountaintop." That's a little alarming. And it's crazy that Abraham is just praised for this. But then we move on and we see that, they're gathering everything up, and Isaac notices that there's not a lamb.
Oh yeah, this is a crazy detail.
He's like, "Where's the lamb? What's going on here? I don't see the animal for sacrifice." And Abraham says, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son."
He literally, can you think of any more gaslighting thing to say to somebody? He literally just lies to him. He just straight lies to him. Just, "Oh yeah, the Lord will provide. The Lord will provide a lamb." Like, this story is horrible. And it's one of those things that should just be like a single issue deconversion. Like, once you realize how immoral this story is, you should just be done with Christianity. You should be done worshiping any God that would do this.
So both of them went together. And Christians have told me that this right here shows that Abraham knew that God was going to provide a lamb. Like, he knew that he wasn't going to actually sacrifice his son. And that certainly is one way to interpret it.
Nope.
And I understand why they have to interpret it that way. But I don't read that. My first initial reaction is, oh, well, Abraham is obviously making sure that his son is not afraid. He doesn't want to freak his son out before he lays the knife down in his heart. So he's just saying, don't worry, God will provide. God, don't you worry. You know, that's what I see. I see an Abraham who is gathering up his supplies, who has not questioned it, who is ready to go, who takes his son, who is in motion to do the thing he was asked to do. And in a minute here, I'll be able to show you why I think that it does not show that Abraham knew God was going to provide and that Abraham fully intended to sacrifice his son. In verse 9, when they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. So Abraham takes him up. He puts his son on a table or an altar of some sort. He binds him. He ties him down to the altar. And then he takes a knife and he holds it over Isaac's body like he's about to. So just stopping right there. What's going through Isaac's mind? What is Isaac thinking when his father, who he loves and trusts to protect him and take care of him, what is he thinking when he sees his dad standing over him with a knife? It's probably not good. There's probably a lot of terror and fear. And, you know, I remember being told this story in my Sunday school class. And not once did anyone ever consider or bring up the feelings of Isaac in this situation. My Sunday school teacher didn't ask me, how do you think Isaac felt in this situation?
Yeah, it's so scary.
What are your thoughts on this? And I think this
Just
is
utterly terrifying.
probably the biggest problem with Sunday school, with the indoctrination that kids get in Sunday school, is that these children are being taught by these adults these very scary stories, these stories that kids should not be learning about. And they're not being taught to explore the story, to consider everyone in the story. They're not being taught to empathize with the characters in the story. They're just being fed it, and they're being told, this is the lesson you're supposed to get out of it. This is how you believe. You think Abraham was really good, right? You think Abraham was being really faithful, right? You think he did the right thing, right? Isn't it so great that he had faith? It's not a place where kids can explore and empathize. I didn't learn empathy in Sunday school. I didn't learn empathy in the church. I had to learn that on my own because nobody ever taught me. Nobody taught me to put myself in someone else's shoes. And so when I'm being taught a story about a child whose father is holding a knife over him after tying him down to an altar, I never, until I was an adult, even thought about the perspective of Isaac in that situation. Because the point it's not about Isaac. It's not about Abraham. It's about God and what God wants, and you doing what God says, and God being glorified, and everything working out the way God wants it to, no matter how everybody else feels. And this is how people are taught to disregard people's feelings. This is how Christians are raised with a lack of empathy, because they're not taught to feel, you know, what those in the story might have felt. They're not taught to put themselves in their shoes, to explore. They're just told, this is the story, deal with it. This is how it goes. This is what you believe about it. And so I just, now as an adult, I can actually look and I'm like, oh my gosh, like reading the story as an adult, like I can't imagine what Isaac must have gone through. That's terrifying. That's traumatizing. And, you know, we know what happens in the story. Spoiler alert, he doesn't kill him. So when they're walking down from the mountain, I'm just like, what must that have been like?
Awkward.
With his dad and him. Like, nothing ever said about how Isaac feels in the story. It's never said. It's just like, oh, well, that's what happened. You didn't kill him, thank goodness. Moving on. So it says in verse 10 that Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter.
Isaac is officially the most traumatized child in history. And the thing that's crazy is Christians don't realize that they're traumatizing their own children when they tell them this story. How can you hear this story and not think about if your parent would do something like this to you? How can you not then connect that with, well, your parent is the one who brought you to this church, and they thought that this was an okay story, and they were excited about it, and they were maybe amening and clapping along and singing songs before and after, like this is just okay. And then, you know, leave, you hop back in the car and it's off to grab lunch or whatever, and they never even like acknowledge it or talk about it. I mean, it's not just, I mean, obviously I don't think it ever happened. I think these are all fictional characters. Thank goodness that the trauma Isaac faced is only in a goddamn story. But the trauma that children face when being indoctrinated with this is very real.
His son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham looked up with his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
Abraham
why you
called
got.
the
I
name of
think
the
that's why
place,
you're
the
bleeding
Lord
out
will
my.
provide, as it is on this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Look at verse
I think I just
11.
foist a wrench upon
When
you.
the angel says, or verse 12, he says, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you.
Nitty, did you take down your content or something? I noticed you changed your channel name, and then I was like, what's going on Nitty's channel? And it's like, I can't see all your content.
Fear God, seeing as you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. To me, this verse is the smoking gun that tells me that Abraham.
Yeah, Nitty, I've been hearing about this too,
completely
where
intended
we don't talk
to
about the fact
kill
that in the
his
earliest
son.
version, at least
It
Isaac
wasn't
doesn't come
that
back down.
Abraham and God were just playing a game. And Abraham knew that God would provide. And so he just went along with the
Oh, I
motions.
got you.
It's not that. Because the angel says, I see that you've not withheld your son. I know what you're willing to do now. I see it. I know that you were willing to kill your son. And because of that, your faith is great. And,
That's awesome. And you're good. Here's a cookie.
So when Christians say, well, Abraham knew that God was going to provide, he knew that he wasn't going to actually have to do it. That's not what the angel said. Because if he didn't think he was actually going to have to do it, then he didn't pass the test. Because the test was to see if he was actually willing to give up his son. That was the test. The test wasn't, do you have enough faith to obey me? It was, or do you have enough faith to kill your son for me? And Abraham said, yep. And he went to go do it. So much so that he bound him down and held a knife over him. So verse 15, and the angel of the Lord called to Abraham for a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and not withheld your son, your only son. They repeat it. I will surely bless you. I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, as the sand that is on the seashore, and your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men. They arose, they went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. And that's pretty much the end. If the point is that you're supposed to listen to the voice of God and do whatever the voice of God says, no matter what it is or how crazy it sounds, that's the lesson you're supposed to get out of it. How does that apply to modern times? Because in modern times, when people think they hear the voice of God telling them to kill their own child and then they do it, we lock them up. And I don't think Christians generally argue that we shouldn't be locking those people up and that those people actually did a good thing. I remember reading the story of Andrea Yates, which that story just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for the kids. It breaks my heart for Andrea, because I think so much of what she experienced was outside of her control. I think it was severe mental illness mixed with severe religious indoctrination, and it just combined for a really, really bad thing that happened, a very unfortunate incident. And I'm not going to get into the details of Andrea Yates. You can look it up online. But Andrea Yates did think that she heard a voice telling her she needed to kill her kids to save them, I think from Satan. Pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it was so she could save them from Satan. And so she drowned her kids in a bathtub because she thought she was saving them because she had severe mental illness. And I don't know anybody that, I mean, I'm sure there are people, but probably very few. I don't know anybody that really supports what she did. They might support her because she had mental illness, but they don't support what she did. They don't think it was a good thing that she did that. But in her
Right.
mind,
This is why Uncle Bobby's always saying the best part about Christianity is it requires absolutely no follow-up, no consistency. Because they know this shit is fucked up. And they would not go through with it. They would assume that if they were hearing a voice telling them to sacrifice their child, that either something was wrong with them or it was Satan. But they certainly would not assume it was the voice of God testing their faith and wanting him to show how holy they are by swinging an axe to their kid. This is one of those stories that it makes me sick, and it makes me feel like I'm just fed up with religious people. I'm just like, I'm not going to take people who believe this book seriously. I just can't.
she thought she was doing the right thing for God. But when we look at that, we see delusion.
Right. We don't go, great.
And then we go to Sunday school and they
faithfulness.
teach us that it's the most faithful and righteous thing you could do to take your kid up to a mountain, tie him down, and hold a knife over him because God said so. That's kind of a wild lesson to be teaching people. And especially if you have people in your church with mental illness that cannot distinguish like reality from non-reality, that is
Like
hearing
most of the
voices
people
that
in
they
your
think
church
are
at
from
this point.
God, to be telling them that they should be listening to that voice and obeying that voice, and that if they do, they will be faithful to God, is very dangerous, like incredibly dangerous. And the bottom line is, you know, they'll say that just the bottom line is that Abraham had faith. He had faith. He trusted God and God provided. So if you trust God, God will provide. I've trusted God a lot in my life and God didn't provide what I needed. I provided what I needed and did it on my own. People all the time pray to God and trust God and he does not provide what they need. So it's just not true. And I don't understand why we're seeing this as a good, healthy relationship between a God and a person. When God is testing a person to see if they really have faith, even though God is omniscient, knows the future,
Right.
already knows what
whether they
Abraham's
have
going to
faith or
do.
not.
If you're being tested, it's because the teacher
Oh, I
is
can't believe I
wanting to
used to be a
see
Christian.
where you're at. They want to know if all of the information they've given you is you know sinking in, and so they want to see where you're at with that information, and so they test you and they see what your grade is. But they don't know. I mean, if they knew where you were at already and they knew the answers to your test, well, they wouldn't
Or
give
we
you a
just give
test.
you
There
the
would be no
grade.
need to. The
Yeah.
test isn't for the student. The test is for the teacher. Why is God testing people when he already knows what they're going to do?
That's such a great point.
If it's not some sick game on God's part, because he wants to see what he can get away with, because he wants to see how far people are willing to go for him, that they would kill for him. And how funny is it that when we talk about the Old Testament and the enslavement and the war and the Israelites going against cities around them and how they treated them, people will say, well, those people were terrible. They were so evil. They were sacrificing babies. Well, sorry to break it to you, but Abraham was also willing to sacrifice his baby. He was going to do it. I don't know how that makes him any different, but God stopped him, you know, thankfully, I guess, in this scenario. God stopped him, but he was willing to do it. He was going to go do it. How does that make him any different from people who do it? It doesn't. Those people, if they were sacrificing babies and children, which yes, they probably were, but it wasn't representative of like all the nations around Israel. Not everybody was sacrificing babies. I'm sure.
And Christian parents to this day are still talking about I brought you in this world, I'll take you out.
Very few were, and we have very little evidence to suggest we have no evidence to suggest everybody was just sacrificing babies back then. It's just not what was happening. But even if all of these surrounding cities and nations were doing it, the point is to not do that and not want to do that. But Abraham was willing to do that, and we call that good because God said it. I don't see the morality in that. In this situation, morality, ethics don't matter, but faith does, and faith isn't rooted in morality and ethics.
Exactly.
To follow God is not to be moral.
And this is still the thing Christians don't understand. They are so used to being within their cult, so used to everybody being so happy just that they believe that they just don't. They literally mistake having faith for being moral. They consider them one and the same.
To have faith is to not be moral, to be willing to do something immoral. And I just think if Abraham was being tested, then he failed the test. In my book, he failed the test.
Yep.
He passed the test in God's book by acting immorally or being willing to act immorally. Well, he failed my moral test.
100%. And so
and God is immoral. God wants him to do immoral things and wants him to be willing to do immoral things just to prove his faith. That seems very toxic. That seems incredibly toxic that God would require that or ask you to do that. A good God would not ask you to kill your kid, even if he's just testing you. He wouldn't test you with it. That's not what a good God does. It's not healthy. It's extremely toxic. And I know this story is not real. I know this is just mythology. This did not happen, almost definitely.
But think about how we just teach this to children.
There are millions of people that think it actually did. And they think that this is the lesson to get out of it. And
yes, exactly.
That's scary. It's really scary.
And this is why I'm always telling people the Bible's not beautiful. It's not this fucking great masterpiece, work of art. It's just sitting on some bullshit because you always, when they always tell you, well, there's a greater, lesson to it. There's a moral to the story. You've got to, take away the message. It's like, well, what the fuck is the message? What's the moral of the story? And that's the question we don't ask enough, right? We literally let them tell us there's a moral to the story. You're misinterpreting. You're not seeing the message of God's love. We need to turn around every single time and say, well, what is the moral of the story? Please tell me the lesson we're supposed to learn from this. Please tell me the bigger picture, because that's how you get into this conversation of helping them realize that innocent Isaac is the only moral agent in this story. Everything Abraham is doing is super fucked up. Everything God is doing is super fucked up. And if a person did any of this today, they'd be super fucked up.
Many people actually read this and they find comfort and hope and inspiration from it. They're inspired by a man who was willing to kill his own kid. And they don't consider Isaac in this scenario. They don't consider Abraham in this scenario, really. They all they care about is that God won. God got what he wanted. For what? What's the purpose? Where does this lead to? I don't want to follow a God that asks people to kill their kid. I don't want to follow a God that killed his own kid. I don't want to follow a God that uses human sacrifice as a means for salvation. And I know that's what this it sets it up for. Well, it doesn't set it up for that. Christians have taken this text, have appropriated it and applied it to their religion. This is not their text. This is not their story. But they use the story as kind of a symbolism for the sacrifice of Jesus. God gave up his only son. He was willing to do it. I get it. I understand the symbolism, but it doesn't change the fact that it's messed up, that human sacrifice is not how people should be forgiven. And that if God is all powerful and he can do whatever he wants, then there's no reason that he needs to be requiring sacrifice in order for people to be forgiven. The whole system is messed up.
He always does. Yep, that's his MO.
Sometimes
That's his
I feel
fucking
like I'm
MO.
going crazy when people around me are like, yeah, that's totally fine and normal.
Same.
It's great, actually. We love it. Give us more.
More God. Yay, Jesus.
So they'll say that the point is, that God provided and Abraham didn't do it, but I think they're missing my point, which is that Abraham was willing to do it in the first place.
And that God
And
was
that's
willing
kind
to
of where I
ask.
land. You might have some thoughts of your own. I'd love to hear those in the comments. You might see this very differently than I do, and that's okay. But I like sharing my perspective. I like hearing your perspective. And I like just having this time to kind of explore these ideas, to explore these things that we were taught to believe, turn them around, flip them on their head, break them apart, rebuild it, figure out where are we at in all of this? Where is how we feel in all of this? And that should matter. That should matter the most. How do I feel about this? When it comes to spirituality and what you get out of these ancient texts, it's all about how you interpret it, what you get out of it. And if you don't feel good about it, you don't get something out of it, then it's time to just discard it and move on. And that's just how I feel. But let me know what you thought in the comments. I loved going through the story. I'm really excited for the next Bible story we'll be doing, and many more. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
All right, gang. Christy Burke, y'all already know. Christy with a K, Burke with an E. Fantastic. I've actually been wanting to talk about that story for a while. It's one of those that's like always in the forefront of my mind when I think about the immorality of faith. It's one of those stories that I don't even see being brought up enough to Christians. I really do genuinely believe that however people experience faith in current times, it is a seduction into the world of immoral behavior. And sometimes it almost feels like that's what they feel good about. Like they feel good about the fact that they can actually throw morality out the window because they have a religion that serves as a sort of higher obligation. And most of them will tell you that, right? That, well, who cares about the rules or the ways of man or being a pleaser of humans, right? But really keeping your focus so that it's all about him. It's all about God. And I think they're more or less telling you that they at least subscribe to the idea. And I don't think most of them will do it. I don't think they follow through with it. They don't have any consistency, but they're at least telling you that they subscribe to the idea that all of these things are permissible. Murder, slavery, genocide, whatever, right? They're all permissible if they're permissible to God. And I just don't know how you're supposed to cooperate and live in a world where people are committed to that. I don't think you can. I think you have to act in spite of them. I think coddling them, trying to reason with them, I don't think any of that's effective because the religion shortcuts all of that. It short circuits all that. It makes sure that doesn't work. I think that's why I think shame comes in. I really do think shame is very important. I think people should be ashamed of following this religion. I don't care why. I know a lot of them, it's just something they were indoctrinated in and they never thought about it. But they've heard enough immoral stories. They've heard enough bad things. They've seen enough bad effects in our world to question this thing. And if they haven't, then that is a personal shortcoming in my book. And they should be held accountable for that. As I'm a fan of saying, it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. In other words, it may totally be due to circumstances outside of your control that you became a Christian or a believer, but you are the only person as an adult, especially, who can take ownership over your life and put yourself in a different situation. So that's going to do it for me tonight, y'all. That was super fun. Like I said, we were going to be all over the place. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Really, really fun. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Appreciate everybody. We'll be back on Sunday, I believe, for the Blackout with Uncle Bobby at 1 and Hot Program with my one black friend at 3:30. Otherwise, we will be in Gather, hanging out. There's a link in the description if you want to come hang out with us offline and Gather. Also join the Discord. And if you want to send us some ducats, there's a Ko-Fi link in the description, and you can, join the community, become a member. Super, super sweet. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully we'll see you on Sunday, if not sooner. Love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Said I'm gone.